You gotta have your tools if you're gonna be making what you're working with. In the previous tutorial, I was a little unfair. I was using tools you didn't even know how to use to give you examples of how to talk about how to make Flash work for your fingers. But now I'm going to teach you about the tools. All these tools. You got a toolbar here on the left, and inside of it are the tools that you're going to need to make your animations show up on other people's screens. Or even your screens when the people are in the room. Or maybe it's just you watching your own animations all day long. Let's get going. There are certain kinds of tools. Here, I'll show you. So I've made a little, I've made a diagram of your keyboard, the one that you have, and there it is. Most people have keyboards similar to this. I don't have the letters on there, but you can look down at yours and then look back up frantically and find out. Here's P, here's Q, and then here is Z. And there you go. So I put them where their keyboard shortcuts are by default, and that's, maybe this will be helpful so you can learn some shortcuts along the way, but I'm going to do a whole other tutorial on, cutting short. So don't really worry about it, but just a little helpful thing there. Now let's talk about the kinds of tools. You got 3 different kinds, and the 2 are in here, and then there's view. First of all, this selection, free transform, subselect, gradient transform, and then lasso are all what I'm going to be calling editing tools or manipulation tools. They're things that you don't use to make anything, but to change other things. Oh, this is not an editing tool. I just deleted it there. Don't be confused. You make ovals with that. These, these are your creation tools or your destruction. It's just stuff that you use to actually make stuff happen on the screen, to create. And then lastly, you got your view tools. So those are green, creation is orange, and then editing, manipulation is blue. Good to go. Let's just talk about them, write down the list, and learn what they all do. I'm going to break it up by each section so that I can keep these short and sweet and not forget everything about every tool, because if I try to talk about everything in one long video, it turns out like 40 minutes to cover it all. So let's get going. First, we got our free transform tool. It's Q on your keyboard, and it is right here. I'm going to go left to right where they are on the keyboard. So click that one. Now you've got it. Good. I'm going to go to some blank canvas here to show you what it does, and I'll be making shapes, so you might want to just watch both of these or all 3 of these tutorials, depending on how many I make about tools, before you try and do all this on your own. But we've got ourselves a rectangle. There it is. Now if I get free transform, let me show you about all these things it does. First of all, you click to select, and what you get is a bounding box. It's these 8 handles, and then an anchor point, or a center point. And what this is it's a region around your shape where Flash says there's a shape inside of here. And if, for example, your shape was more like this, it would still be a 90-degree box that's perpendicular to, it's up and down. It's never rotated, just like that when you first click. However, if you use the first function of the free transform, rotate, well then your box gets skewed, and it will remain skewed so long as the thing that you have just rotated is selected. And if you click out of it by clicking anywhere on the screen that is not an object of sorts, it'll deselect and then go back in, and it'll give you a new bounding box that is set right back to those 90-degree normal box type properties. So you just learned about rotate. On any corner point, you can hold it just outside the little grabber, rotate, and it'll go. Next, there is skewing. Just like this, you grab between any 2 points, and it will skew in the direction that you pull it. Really helpful stuff. Then you got scaling. Okay, you can scale anything you want by grabbing a corner point or a center point and just pull it in any direction. Scaling is probably the most common use of the free transform tool. So rotation, skewing, and scale. Now each one of these kind of has a subset, and then there's one little extra function that isn't default just a single left click, which is the stretching function. Say you want to kind of do some perspective-y stuff. If you hold Control, where you would normally scale, it goes into this kind of sub-category of altering stuff, where if you click and you drag, it will skew. Well, not skew, it'll stretch from that point. You can do it on center points, you can do it on corner points. It'll work to your advantage. And then also, if you would like to do that on both sides, say you want it to stretch that way and that way, then you get your free transform tool and you hold Control like before, and then you hit Shift and it will stretch in both directions. Great. So there's that. Now let's work backwards. We were just scaling. Say you want it to stay proportionate, just hold Shift, and no matter what, it will maintain its proportions wherever your cursor is. Great, good going. Also with scaling, if you hold Alt, you can scale from the center instead of from the opposite point of where you grab. So normally if I grab here, it'll scale from there, just like that, but if I hold Alt, now it's scaling from the center. And you can pair holding Alt up with holding Shift, and it'll scale from the center proportionately. Great, that's scaling for you. Next we got rotation. This is normal rotation. It does it from this center point, which, by the way, you can move. Hover over it and click it, and so long as this stays selected, it will rotate around that point. But say you want to just do it from the center real fast. Or not from the center, I'm sorry, that's what it does by default. Say you want to do it from anywhere else. Do like a pendulum action. You just see where you want it to rotate, go opposite, and hold Alt and rotate, and it'll do exactly what you're after. And then Shift on rotations will always give you 45 degrees. I'm holding Shift now, 45, 90, whatever. And that works from the center as well. Click, 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 click. That's almost everything that you need to know. The last thing that isn't very obvious, if you want to do really like custom distortions where everything bends in a certain way, if you click or if you select a bunch of stuff and you've got free transform, in the options panel here, by the way, don't use these, do it the way that I was just showing you, because I don't even know how to make this work, but if you click envelop, then you get this new set of handles. I know, it looks like a billion. It's the same amount, it's just that each one, the corners and the middles, have been given extra side handles, which allows you to do things like this. See what's going on here? See what we're getting at? And then you grab these ones. All the circles are rotational and the squares are positional. So kind of complex and maybe left for a whole different tutorial, but that is the free transform tool in a nutshell. Yeah. Also, when you're scaling from the sides, if you hold Alt, it'll give you this. So uniform horizontal scale, and then from the top ones, uniform vertical scale. Done. Done and dealt. Next, well, let's talk about this guy, because it's a pretty underrated tool for a pretty good reason. Say you've got a circle, and it's there, and it's okay, but you want it to be kind of wavy, or maybe you've got a box, and you want it to do some of this action, some of that. Okay, you can't do it just with your selection tool, which we'll get to next. So you might need Subselect. Oh, Subselection. I just clicked on the edge here, and now I get 8 handles all around. That's because this circle is perfect, and it only has very few vertex groups, which again is another thing, but this is just a quick overview of Subselect. If you click a point on a curve and you click and drag, you get these extra handles that do all sorts of wibbly wobbly things that honestly I use on a basically never basis. So yeah, Subselection. Kind of a little complex, but sometimes it gets the job done. Same thing for rectangles, I hope. Like say this is a little bit curved, but I want it to be an S curve. You get Subselect here, click a corner, and then you can do stuff like that for like rolling hills or clouds maybe, but yeah, that's Subselection. Next, let's talk about, well, what is next? The gradient transform. This is F on your keyboard. By the way, this was A by default. So if you have a color that is not solid, it is a either linear or radial gradient, then it'll look like this. Let me just make this a little bit different. Yeah, so you can see it in contrast from the white. By the way, I'm going to get in a whole thing of colors later, but this is just about the tools. So if you hit F or click there, and then you click inside of a gradient, it does not work on normal fills, but in gradients you get this special option where it changes the cursor, and you can click and you get blue lines, a white circle, and some little handles. These are the direction, the scale, and the, position of your gradient inside of a shape. This one moves it, which is helpful sometimes. This one makes it thinner. It's just taking this and, only making it span this distance. So whatever this last color is will go the rest of the way, and the other color the other. It works the same inversely, where it can take just the middle bit if you want that to happen, for whatever you're making. Also, the rotation can be used to change the direction. Good, good. Now see how there's two handles for linear ones with radial gradients? You're going to get three. You're going to be looking at three handles. 1, 2, 3, and then the same center one. Along with now a little arrow for moving the position along the line of the position of... See, radial gradients are sort of complex, and that's okay. They're really helpful for, like effects and whatnot. This one is scale of the whole thing. This one is scale on one axis for like a lens flares. Maybe, all those things you need. And then this one is rotation, which only really matters once you have a non-uniform, radial gradient. Okay? Okay, good. That is the free transform tool. I mean, the gradient transform tool. That has free transform. What's next? Well, the most important of any tool you're ever going to use in Flash, the selection tool. So you're just going along. Oh, I need to grab that. You're going to need the selection tool. You need it for everything. Everything. It's your default end-all tool. And what happens when you get it? You can hit V or just click it. You get stuff like selecting. You get stuff like deselecting. Everything you need. You can click and drag so long as you're not clicking on an object. If you click and drag an object, it'll just move that. But if you click out in the infinite void, then it'll give you a box, which can select things like you do on your PC's desktop. And then you can select just parts of shapes. You can click and drag them to pull them away. You get these little positional symbols at the bottom right corner of your cursor. You can delete it. That's how you might take out a chunk, just by clicking, dragging, and then hitting delete. If you click the edges of shapes, you get the option to see that it changes to a little bendy symbol there. Kind of like some sort of very small gray banana. You can then pull and make all sorts of different shapes. And this is used so often for just like hand sculpting stuff you want in Flash. It's great. Absolutely great. If you grab on a point, like a corner or the end of a line, then you can pull vertices. Good. That's good for you. And it's good for me too. And I'm just deleting, selection tool. And all for tools. Also, if you want to duplicate something, you can just hold Control on your keyboard and then click it, and you'll get a little white mouse with a plus on it. It's showing up black on my recording thing, but it'll be white in yours. And then you let go, and you've duplicated it. Really helpful for getting stuff done fast. Great. Now, I think that's everything with the selection tool. It has snapping options where it does stuff like this. You're grabbing, where's it gonna, snapped, right like that. Done. Now, we've got the Eyedropper. This is sort of a misfit tool, but I think it fits best into manipulation, because what it does is not create anything, ever. It gives you the option to select colors, like in Paint or Photoshop or lots of other programs. So say you've got this, but you want it to be that color. Instead of going to your color options and getting this eyedropper, there's a whole tool for it. So say you're at this color and you hit I, or you just click in here, then you can grab this color. It'll tell you that it's a brush fill, kinda. I think if it's a line, it'll it'll tell you it's a line with the little pencil icon, but we're getting this fill. You click, and then it automatically jumps you to the paintbrush tool, and then you can just paste that by clicking somewhere else. But that is the fill tool, that's creation. We'll talk about that later. The important thing is that the eyedropper gives you options like selecting colors. Eyedropper, boom, you got it now. Say it's that color, you got it. It's there. Click. Oh yeah, that's the fill tool. That's later. Good. Eyedropper, misfit tool. I don't use it. I don't use it very often at all. Lastly, the lasso. What can you do with the lasso? It's a lot like the selection tool, but instead of just being able to make boxes and rectangles, you can make lasso tool any shape you like, anything you like. You can turn this into whatever. You can go in there and you can pull yourself out a lovely boot, and then you can wear that. You can wear that on the weekends. You can just get rid of everything else, and there's your boot. There it is right there. Lasso tool. It works by, I just got it again. You click, you drag, and you grab some, and you get out of there, and then it'll close the gap, or you can just hit V. This is especially important with this option here for lasso. It's polygon mode. So say you wanted to really carefully sculpt out the back of the leg. So you go in here, and so this way you don't have to draw one huge line, and if you mess up once, it's kind of, it's game over, gotta start over. This way you can go one little increment in bits, and then just go out here, hit V to get the selection tool, and it will close this gap between the first and the last point. Got it, done, it grabbed it. Perfect leg, foot, ankle. Magic. Lasso. Also with the lasso tool, you get the magic wand. Check that out. Lasso, magic wand. Say, you got a picture? You know, you've got pictures that you want to be able to be using in your things, and they're not vectorized. So there's no way that you're going to have any luck trying to find a good way to cut it out with the lasso tool just by hand. You use the magic wand. See, this is a bitmap, which is a whole other tutorial, but the point is learning about the magic wand right now. I just broke it apart by clicking Control B, or you go up here and modify, break apart. Anyway, just don't focus on that right now. You go lasso, you hit magic wand, and you click. Boom, got it. Got it, got it, got it, got it, got it, got it. So, if you want to change the tolerance settings, then you can just click this one with the little ellipsis under the wand, and you can change it to like 50, so you get just more than one color in one click. Grabbed all those dark colors. And don't worry about that, that was my lasso selection. Anyway, that's magic wand. I use it sometimes, but pretty rarely. Only when I'm doing photo editing in Flash, which is a pretty poor way to edit photos, but you know, I like to do it. Done and done. Those were your manipulation tools. You got Q, A, F, V, I, and L for your hotkeys. Very great. I use them all the time. I don't even look down. In fact, I could probably close the tools window, but I need those options. There you go. Little bite-size bitty tutorial for you there. And I'll be back with another one to talk about these guys. You know. Bye.